before the 1 year mark tomorrow, but I just found it interesting that in my last video I was inviting the magic to come in, and it showed itself in a weird way. And in my last video, the end of it actually showed that there was a knock at my door, and it was that new interesting friend of mine. And it seems that things have kind of gone full circle. And I was talking about full circle since the fly video, and being in that sort of magic state sometimes a little bit, and being off medication. And then this very intriguing individual shows up that is intriguing because he seems to be in a map conscious or magical type state, and just observing him, I can understand that language just by observing the few things he says and the way he moves around and things like that. So he came into my room, and basically, to make a long story short, I asked him to leave because he wanted to be in a relationship or something, and I told him that I can't. I tend to like women, and he's an attractive man, and if I could go there, maybe I would. Explaining that to him didn't really work, and I've avoided explaining that to men at all costs. And the last man that really knew, he didn't really care either. It's not like, oh, okay, well, nice to know you, was good to be a friend or whatever. It's not like that. So anyways, he wouldn't leave the room, and so I had to emphatically ask numerous times. And when he was sitting on the ground, kind of refusing to leave, he was breathing in a certain way and saying certain words that reminded me of a past situation, and it was sort of a past situation that is the one that troubled me in January as well. But this time it wasn't just that in my consciousness and just trying to go about daily life and it comes up in consciousness, but a completely new situation in actual reality, which just has parallels to that past situation, kind of like that movie Arrival. And I watched that recently, and I watched it and I was like, I wonder if that really applies to any of my experience. And it did a little bit, but not a lot. But now it actually does, now that I think about it, because it's sort of like in the movie where she hears the heptapods making a certain sound in their language, and at the same time she hears the crinkle of a paper of her daughter or something like that. Yet, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, turns out she didn't even have a daughter yet, but she was sort of experiencing that future reality. But anyways, I was experiencing the past reality with this reality, but sounds of the past. So anyways, that's not important, but what was important in a way was he did leave, and it felt sort of like having the opportunity to say, go. Like, I don't want you here, go. I don't need you. And he sort of wanted me to join him in that magical dimension and wanted to pull me through that portal in a way. And I don't know, I just felt like he didn't listen to me, what I was saying. Like, I can't, sorry. And besides that, I've already been through that portal, and it's been a long journey to sort of walk in both worlds, and now I'm in the process of wanting to walk in both worlds, not just that mystical and magical world, because it's very ungrounding. And So that clue I got from that lady who said, stay grounded, well, I'm choosing to stay grounded. And he also said something about making an analogy of a woman not giving the time of day to a man because of past experience, and that she shouldn't necessarily do that. It's not really fair to the man. He didn't say it like that. He gave a different example, but to me, that's what made me feel like I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't even want to explain it anymore. Just get out, because I'm sorry, but men haven't walked a day in a life of a woman in the constant fear, and that's not fair to say, and I don't agree 1 second. And in a perfect world, maybe that would be possible, but it's not. And I don't want to go on and on about it, really. I could, but I don't want to. And I feel it's possible I'm somewhat healed from that experience that just happened now. And I feel like I'm in that place again before this all started, when I went rollerblading and I fell asleep under a tree, and I woke up and I felt so calm and so relaxed. And things changed after that. But I feel like I went full circle back to the fly video, which was before I was labeled. And now I've almost gone full circle back before any of this all started. And I don't know if that's true, but I tend to talk about things in advance of them being true. And that's part of the process, is talking that possibility into existence. Because talking about possibilities, the brain resides in possibilities and perhaps speaks the language of possibilities and responds to possibilities, as opposed to saying, this is my narrow goal and I want to reach it and that's all I want, and not being able to see anything. And missing out on the rest of life. So it feels symbolic in a lot of ways, and I feel quite calm. And I was able to talk to a friend after for an hour who was right there to support me. And before, I didn't really have that support. Back when I needed it, when I was going through all that stuff before I was labeled, I didn't have that support. And so it led to being labeled and getting the support of the system and having to move through all of that. And I think I talked about in a recent video about how that's given me so much to see and to be able to inform me what to create moving forward. And I said that to myself in a very recent video. I said, well, what am I going to do with this is the real question, being off meds. And it's not necessarily about helping people with supposed mental illness, because that's just a consolidation of everything else that's going on. And so I'm seeing that, but I'm not allowing it to necessarily re-traumatize me at this point, just inform me. So in the video I actually watched of myself from October and November, I did mention euphoric sensation, which I learned about from Dr. Daniel Siegel. And I feel like just hearing that term yesterday for myself helped me today, in that I realized that there was some stuff from the past, but it had euphoric sensation. I realized that those sounds were from the past too, but I wasn't allowing that to stop myself from being present with what was happening right now and stand firm in what I felt. And also, there's a passage by Krishnamurti I once read that says, there is a reality when coming upon the mind transforms it. You don't have to do a thing. It operates. Something like that. And then later on it says, no authority can give it to you. No religion, no guru, no this, no that. And when you see that nobody can give it to you, you have it. And just a little while ago I realized that. I sort of thought of that, and how this person was sort of trying to bring me to enlightenment, or give me enlightenment, or give me that state. and I didn't want it, and I don't want it, and it's partly because I'm not seeking, I'm not looking for anything. I feel more in touch with that which looks, not something that which looks is looking for. There's nothing in particular. So it could be anything. It could be this person offering enlightenment and feeling like that's something I need, or looking at a beautiful rose. It's just there. And again, I could be talking in a different way at some other point, but I felt like sharing this with myself and just acknowledging that something really happened there. And again, not necessarily going back. That happening didn't make me go back, but it also helped to answer, what am I going to do with this a little bit? And it offered more clues to what I'm need to be doing. And yesterday watching those videos, and again seeing the Dream Center project, and seeing that perhaps helping to create safety for women. Like, I have this idea that I don't see why the Apple Watch can't have some kind of safety feature for women, even if it's a gesture of how one moves when being attacked or something can alert people that someone needs help. Somebody can create that app, or somebody can create that. And there are things that are created, but it was something that was just integrated into something so many people already have, instead of some kind of bulky thing here or there. And in my last video I was editing, and I said something about if I can go back, or when I go back home. But at first I said if I can go back, and I felt like, what was that about? If. Was I saying if I can go back and do such and such, or if I can go back as a slip? I wonder if I can go back, and I will go back. Maybe it just means I can't go back the way I was, or I don't know. I really don't. I feel calm. I feel healed, and I don't know if that's true, but I remember Dion Bimal saying something about, and then you're utterly healed. And that's sort of what arose in my brain, was you're healed. And also that thing with the Krishnamurti quotes, when he says, when you realize that nobody can give it to you, you have it. And this person was trying to offer it to me, and I was feeling like, you can't give it to me. Maybe because I feel like I already have it, and I don't know what that it is. But at the same time, maybe I kind of had it 6 years ago, and that magic was transformed into a so-called mental illness, and I've had it all along. It's just been not as prominent. And I feel too that I don't need to purposefully make it super prominent. It's still there. It's still operating in the background. I don't want to always see it and be aware of it. And it's related to that quote I read by Dion Bimal as well, saying about that magic, and how he talked about the magic. This is your magic. It's the real you, the you that never dies. And I feel like when a person comes in contact with that magic always continues, and it's something that is difficult to explain. And I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just felt that I wanted to share this with myself, as it's really interesting that this happened, and I feel this sense of healing, like resolving things from the past and feeling alone in a good way. Like, I don't need anybody. And in that, I can really possibly meet people because I don't need anything from anybody. This person seemed to want something from me, and I don't want anything from him. I don't want anything from anyone, really. And perhaps because I've done a lot of this myself, and I haven't done it myself. There's been a lot of support, but the part that I know other people would have a hard time supporting, such as, I'm going to go off meds in California, I've just gone about that process myself. And of course, with the support of Hearty Nutritionals and the micronutrients. And I got my new shipment of Hearty Nutritionals micronutrients and the amino acids, and I also got the probiotic, which is good timing because yesterday I had gut issues for sure. So I'm really grateful for the process. I'm really grateful for the space I've had here in California and the people that I've met, and Hearty Nutritionals and everyone back home who is asking, when are you coming back? And my family, of course, and this process of self-dialogue, this process of talking to the iPhone processor and having a unbiased witness, just witnessing this process with myself and being able to witness it by editing the video. And it's just interesting timing that the very last day I feel like something big has healed, and I wonder if there'll be any kind of fallout from that or aftermath, because even when I was in California 6 years ago, I met a very powerful man, and I left, and after I left, things went downhill. And it's not about the powerful man, it's about that high state of consciousness and being there with someone and being in that state, and that actually brings that other being of a certain consciousness to you. So knowing that I sort of did that again, brought a being of a certain state of consciousness into my reality, I wonder if that's the ceiling. I think I was talking about what's the ceiling. When will I hit the ceiling? And I feel very calm, yet like that might have been the ceiling. Not the ultimate ceiling, but the ceiling before I might fall. And that's often what happens. I'm doing pretty well, and then things fall. And then I have to pick up the pieces and go through that whole process and perhaps medicate myself, and I don't want to do that. And maybe some of the calm is actually from taking the micronutrients. I think I took 5 vitamin C again today just because of the extra distress, and the micronutrients and the amino acids, and we'll see. I feel like I have pushed away somebody very who speaks that language of map consciousness, and I wanted to speak that language of map consciousness and observe, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. And maybe there was no recognition on the other person's part that I speak that language, I get it. It's taken me 6 years to move from that chaotic state through the mental health system and out the other side. And I'm not about to go back to the highest point. I'm just going to keep moving at the pace that I'm moving, which is kind of the pace of talking to myself. And the next steps are healing, if there's any more healing, and I'm sure there is, but I feel the healing is actually in creating something that heals. And that's the other thing, is this person seems to need some rest and some some support and care, as you might be trying to do too much. And I've been there trying to do too much in that first experience in map consciousness, trying to save the world, trying to save people. And when one tries too hard, one falls really hard. And I think at one point I was talking about making the effort to be effortless, and can life be effortless? And sometimes I feel like I'm in the effortless place, and to make an effort actually moves one away from being in touch with what one feels one is making an effort for. And every effort presupposes that we know what we want, what we're looking for. But that's a projection, usually from our past, so yeah. And maybe the projections of my past prevent me from seeing a being who could have brought some kind of enlightenment or something. But again, nobody can give it, nobody can bring it to anyone. And maybe that's part of that state where one feels like one can really bring it for other people, but one can't. People have to see it for themselves. And that's also why I talk about, I don't know if I can help anyone. I don't even imagine I can or want to try to. That's more just a way of expressing it in words. But the actuality is, I don't know if anyone can help anyone, but maybe that energy can. And I feel like the energy this person brought was helpful, but maybe not in the way that he was hoping. I feel stronger, like I don't need anybody. And part of that has been this self-dialogue process. If I can talk to myself for an entire year and talk myself through all of this, why do I need somebody to all of a sudden come in and bring chaos and change things? I don't. And if somebody arrives in my reality and can't see that, then they just can't actually see. They just think they can. And I don't know if that's true. I'm just talking. I'm just talking from a place of strength in areas I have not felt strong. And I just wonder if it'll last. I guess that's yet to be seen. It feels like it's possible that now that I'm off the meds, little bits that I need to process may come up here and there, like they did today. Instead of having the meds suppress it, and the bits can't come up, so the bits start accumulating over time. And that to me is the accumulation of the allostatic load that eventually the meds just don't actually protect from that anymore, and it just bursts through the chemical protective layer of medication that is trying to suppress these elements that the brain is trying to process. It would be like trying to stay awake all the time because one is afraid of nightmares. It's impossible, and that's just going to create more nightmares. So it feels like maybe now with the Hardy Nutritionals and being off meds, things will come up for processing, but it won't be this long period of medication suppressed processing bits accumulating in an allostatic load that eventually breaks through what the medications are able to suppress, and then all comes into consciousness at the same time. And the other day I was talking about how I was noticing words sounding vulgar, and that's usually something that happens when I'm in the worst so-called psychosis. So to notice that yet not feel like I'm in psychosis, it's like I've gone from psychosis to just noticing, and noticing that it has euphoric sensation, that it's from the past. And when I notice that, I feel like then the hippocampus can put it in its right place in the brain. Because if we're not noticing it, we're we're just letting it interfere with our reality instead of noticing it, integrating it into the brain, and then also utilizing that information to actually inform one's life moving forward. So it's not just integrating the memories, but that process actually moves one in a different way that will help move one towards what one needs to do next. And perhaps I'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow if something arises, but for now, I'll leave it at that. I'm grateful for the magic. I'm grateful for this process I've been going through. And maybe it's only a process that could have happened in California, away from all those other energies that are there and would tell me not to do this. And I've done it, and I've done it myself and by my own volition, and also the participation of the universe. So I'm grateful for the universe. The universe is on my side, and I'm on the side of the universe, and it's just two sides of one coin.